You ever look back at your life and realize the moment everything seemed great was actually just the warm-up before the rug got yanked out from under you? That's how I feel when I think about the past year. Not because something tragic happened. No, not at first. It's worse than that. It's the kind of betrayal you don't see coming, not because it's hidden, but because you're too dumb, too in love, too wrapped up in your routines to even consider your wife might be turning into a stranger right in front of you. My name's Michael Rutherford. I'm 42 years old, live in a quiet suburb outside Indianapolis, and until recently, I thought I had a pretty normal life. I'm a senior facilities manager for a public school system, nothing flashy, but I'm good at it. I fix things. That's my job. Broken boilers, lighting problems, parking lot asphalt, budget reports, emergency cleanup, you name it. If something's falling apart, I get it back together. Funny how I couldn't do the same for my marriage. Patricia, Patty, as most people call her, is my wife. Or was, I guess, depending on how you define wife, after certain truths come to light. We've been married for 11 years. She's 39, works in marketing for a regional healthcare group. One of those remote but always on Zoom kinds of jobs. She knows how to schmooze, how to charm, how to keep the energy up in a room. Sometimes I wondered if she was just built different, the kind of person who had a mode for every crowd. I thought that was impressive. Turns out, it's dangerous. We don't have kids. We tried, years ago, but after 2 miscarriages and a lot of conversations neither of us were ready to have, we quietly stopped trying. It was the kind of grief that gets stored in a file cabinet inside your chest, always there, just rarely opened. And then life moves on, or so you think. You get a dog. You start hosting dinner parties. You refinance the house. You tell yourself you're happy, even when the silence between conversations starts stretching longer each night. For the past couple of years, I thought things were just settled. You know, like we'd hit that middle-aged cruise control. She had her book club, her little walking group, her ever-present group chat that lit up her phone like a Christmas tree. I had my job, my tools, my Sunday fantasy league with the guys. Every now and then we'd do a weekend away, maybe a cabin rental or a stay in Louisville for the art festival. It was a routine. Safe. Predictable. But the thing about routines is, they can turn into blindfolds if you wear them long enough. I started noticing little things, not the obvious red flags, not at first. Just a sense that something was off. She'd laugh at texts and wouldn't tell me what they were about. Her phone was always in her hand. Sure, but whose isn't these days? Still, she never left it on the counter anymore. It became an extension of her wrist. Once, I walked past her while she was scrolling, and she tilted the screen away so fast you'd think I was the NSA. I wasn't suspicious, not really. More curious. Like maybe she was planning something for our anniversary. I had no idea how stupid that thought was at the time. We had a neighbor named Rick who once went through a messy divorce. His wife left him for a guy from her gym. Real cliche stuff. I remember Rick telling me over beers that you never see it coming until you've already been hit. At the time, I gave him the obligatory shoulder pat and said, "That sucks, man. Because what else do you say when someone's life falls apart in front of you?" Now I get it. You don't see it coming. Not because it's hidden, but because you're not looking. It really hit me during a Friday night dinner at our place. Just the 2 of us. I made ribs, like I usually do. She said they were delicious, the same way you'd compliment an airport sandwich. She was barely chewing before she picked up her phone again. "You want to watch a movie?" I asked. She blinked at me, mid-scroll, like I'd interrupted her keynote speech. "What? A movie?" You know, like people do when they sit on a couch and acknowledge each other. "I'm tired. Long week." She went to bed early. I did the dishes alone, listening to the faucet drip in the sink like a metronome counting down to something I couldn't name yet. That night I lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling fan, trying to do the math on how we got here. I'm not a dramatic guy. I'm not one of those husbands who flies off the handle when things feel distant. I usually just assume it's a phase and ride it out. But this felt like I was in a different house with a woman wearing my wife's skin. The weirdest part? There were no big fights. No shouting matches. Just this slow, creeping fog that settled over us, and I couldn't tell if I was imagining it or just finally noticing it. Then came the real kicker. 2 weeks ago, Patricia told me she was going to a women's networking retreat in Asheville. Supposed to be 3 days, just her and the girls from work. I nodded, smiled, told her to have fun. Even helped load her bag into the back of her SUV. That's the kind of guy I am. Helpful to the end, apparently. She posted a few photos on Instagram, nothing too flashy. A scenic shot of the mountains, a fire pit, a book by a window. Nothing personal. No faces. That's when something scratched at the back of my brain. Patricia is the kind of person who documents everything. Normally, I'd get tagged in 5 photos a day, even if it's just her salad. But this trip? Radio silence. So I did something I've never done in 11 years of marriage. I clicked on her Instagram story. And right there, clear as day, was the weirdest detail. The book she posted by the window, a paperback thriller she claimed she was reading by the fire, was sitting on her nightstand at home. I know because I saw it the night before she left. I knocked it off the table reaching for the remote. I blinked. Refreshed the page. Still there. Why would she post a photo of a book she didn't take? I went into the guest room, sat at the edge of the bed, and let the question simmer. Was it a mistake? Maybe. But Patricia wasn't careless. She was calculated, precise, down to how her coffee mug matched her nails in every photo. If she faked one photo, what else had she faked? I didn't sleep much that night. And when she came home the next evening, smelling like hotel soap and eucalyptus, I asked her how it went. She said productive, kissed me on the cheek, and started a load of laundry like nothing had happened. That's when it hit me. I wasn't married to a person anymore. I was married to a performance. And buddy, I was about to find out the show had been running for much longer than I thought. So here I am, telling you all this not because I want sympathy. I'm not fishing for comments or playing the victim. I'm laying this out because the only way I'm going to survive what's coming is if I stop lying to myself and start peeling back the layers of what I thought was true. This is the story of how I found out my wife was cheating, not through lipstick on a collar, not from some anonymous DM, not even from her phone, but from a paperback thriller she never took with her. And trust me, that was just the first clue. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd unravel my marriage over a library book and a printer, I'd have laughed and poured you another beer. But that's the thing about the truth, it doesn't explode like a bomb. It trickles in like a leaky faucet until your kitchen floods and you're standing there ankle deep in the mess wondering how it got this bad. After Patricia's retreat, things didn't go back to normal. She came home with a little more pep in her step, not happiness, exactly. More like smug relief. Like she'd just pulled off something risky and gotten away with it. I'd see it in her smile when she looked at me, not warmth, not affection, just this mild, polished expression that didn't quite reach her eyes. The kind of smile you give a customer, not a husband. I started paying attention. Not in the neurotic, check her location kind of way. I'm not built like that. But I started clocking the small stuff. The text she sent herself from her work laptop and printed using our home office printer, for one. A weird thing to notice, right? But I'm the one who pays for the printer ink. That stuff's more expensive than gasoline. And Patricia doesn't usually print from home unless she's prepping for a presentation. So when I heard the printer humming one morning while I was in the garage getting ready to leave, I paused. Printer's in the guest room, which has slowly morphed into Patricia's Zoom station. I walked in and saw her standing there, collecting papers fast. Too fast. Like a kid shoving candy wrappers under the bed. Everything okay? I asked. Just something for work, she said, folding the stack and slipping it into her laptop bag without even a glance. That night, after she went to bed early, her new habit, I walked into the guest room, looked at the printer tray, and noticed a single page left behind. Must have slipped out during the rush. I'm not proud of reading it, but I did. It was a confirmation email for a reservation. Not for a hotel, not a restaurant. For a guided bike tour in Asheville. 2 participants. The guide's name was handwritten at the top, as if she jotted it down for memory. Let me be clear here. Patricia hasn't ridden a bike in 12 years. And she definitely didn't go on this networking retreat with coworkers who pedal their way through the mountains. No, this was a couples thing. The kind of experience people do when they're on a romantic getaway, not a PowerPoint seminar. Still, I said nothing. Because I needed more than a slip of paper. I needed certainty. Facts. Something that would hold up if this turned into a courtroom of hearts, which, spoiler alert, it was about to. I called in a favor from someone I hadn't talked to in years, Jenna Reeds, a former colleague from a school board grant project. She was a tech consultant back then, now works in risk analysis. We'd kept in touch enough to still share a few happy birthday texts. I told her I needed to talk, and we met for lunch at a generic cafe in the next town over. Jenna's the kind of person who can find your blood type from just your email address. I explained vaguely that I suspected Patricia was hiding something. I wasn't looking for dirt, just the truth. She nodded like she'd heard it all before, then gave me a list of things she could do discreetly. I'm not talking illegal, she said. But I can't tell you if her laptop's being used for stuff other than budget meetings. Metadata doesn't lie. I gave her a backup drive that Patricia used to archive work files, something I'd found in the desk drawer she thought I never opened. And then I waited. 3 days later, Jenna texted, "Lunch again?" I found something. This time, she came with a laptop and a folder. No dramatics, just clean facts. She's got encrypted folders labeled with people's initials. That's not unusual. What is unusual is that these folders don't have work files. They have screenshots, travel confirmations, shared notes from what looks like some kind of itinerary planning under a Gmail account that isn't hers. And she's been accessing these folders from 2 different IP addresses, one of which belongs to a residence over in Lockfield. You know anyone there? Lockfield was 20 minutes away, a suburb in the other direction. No friends, no family, no work connection that I knew of. Then Jenna opened a printout. It was a shared document from a Google account titled Weekender Plans, P. I didn't have to ask what the P stood for. It was a schedule. And not just any schedule, it was meticulous. Shared wine tastings, check-in times, yoga bookings, scenic overlooks, even playlist links. She had crafted a full-blown romantic weekend with someone who wasn't me, and labeled it like a marketing rollout. All I could do was laugh. That's how numb I'd gotten. The woman I shared a mortgage with was coordinating affairs using collaborative tools. Who's the other person? I asked. Jenna shook her head. The second account is locked down, but it's mail. There are calendar invites coming from someone with the initial CJ, and he uses a local ISP. That's all I can give you without crossing a line. CJ. The name hit me like a truck because only one person came to mind. Curtis Jensen. Curtis was a name from Patricia's past, a co-worker from 6 years ago who she always swore was just a little flirty, but harmless. He left the company a while back to start a boutique branding firm, and last I heard, he was doing fine. I remember the Christmas party where he hugged her a little too long. She said he was weird but brilliant. I didn't like him then. I like him even less now. I drove home in silence. That kind of silence where even the engine hum feels disrespectful. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt this cold clarity wash over me, like steel being forged. Because now I knew. She wasn't just cheating. She was building a second life. And doing it with the calm efficiency of a quarterly earnings report. That night, I sat across from her at dinner. She was scrolling through her phone between bites of chicken Caesar. I looked at her and realized I hadn't actually seen her in months. "How was your day?" I asked casually. She smiled, that same distant, performative smile. "Good. Productive. No guilt. No hint of deception. Just an actress who had rehearsed her lines and expected the audience to clap." And that's when I knew Patricia wasn't going to confess. Not ever. She wasn't built that way. She'd sooner rewrite our entire history than admit she was standing on the ashes. So I played along. I let her keep smiling. Let her think the play was still going. Because I wasn't going to confront her until I was ready. Not with rage. Not with begging. No, when the curtain came down, I was going to make sure she felt it. And if you think the discovery was clever, wait until you see how I confront her. They say knowledge is power, but I think that's only half the truth. Knowing is one thing, what you do with it is the real measure. And me? I've never been the kind of guy to lash out. I'm not a yeller. I don't break plates or punch walls. I fix things. Quietly. Deliberately. Which is probably why when I found out Patricia was cheating on me, I didn't storm into the room and demand answers. I made a plan. You learn a lot about a person by watching them when they think you're not watching. For a week after Jenna handed me the evidence, I said nothing. No passive-aggressive jabs. No suspicious glances. I just watched Patricia live in the lie. She was so comfortable in it, it was almost impressive. The calmness. The little hums while she made her tea in the morning. The text she responded to with a smirk when she thought I wasn't looking. She was good. Really good. But not good enough. Thursday night, around 7:45 p.m., she said she was heading to her book club, which had now apparently moved to every Thursday instead of once a month. Book club. Right. I nodded, kissed her cheek, told her to drive safe. Watched her walk out the door with her tote bag that I was sure didn't have a single book in it. I waited exactly 10 minutes, then grabbed my keys. No, I'm not a detective. But I know how to read a Google Calendar and follow a breadcrumb trail of IP logins, courtesy of Jenna. I knew where she was going, and I wasn't going there to spy or catch her in the act. I was going to confirm what I already knew. Just needed that last puzzle piece. Not to hurt her, but so I could stop lying to myself. I drove to Lockfield, pulled into the parking lot of a bland-looking condo complex, and parked behind a rental van. Kept my headlights off. Waited. At 8:32 p.m., Patricia's SUV pulled in. She didn't hesitate. Didn't even glance around. Just parked, stepped out in those tan ankle boots she always wears when she wants to look casually hot, and walked straight into Unit 6B. No key fumble. No pause. The light in the living room came on 2 seconds later. Curtis Jensen stepped into view. So, that was it. Confirmation. No speculation. No what-ifs. My wife was sleeping with a guy who wore sockless loafers and probably used the phrase brand synergy in casual conversation. I didn't feel angry. I felt, and I know how this sounds, relieved. Because when you spend months gaslighting yourself into thinking you're imagining the distance, it's almost a gift to have it smacked in your face. Proof. Hard, undeniable, ugly truth. I drove home without even turning on the radio. The only sound was my fingers tapping the steering wheel, methodically, like I was counting down to something. When she came home at 11:17 p.m., I was already in bed, eyes closed, pretending to sleep. She slipped in next to me without a word. I could smell a different cologne on her. Something woody, like cedar and desperation. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake in the dark, planning every word of what I'd say to her. And I knew it had to be perfect, not loud, not angry, just surgical. Precision over explosion. Truth over theatrics. The opportunity came the following Saturday morning. A calm, blue sky morning. We were sitting at the kitchen table, having coffee. She was scrolling, of course. Probably texting Curtis some nauseating inside joke. I was watching her, again. But this time, I had everything I needed. I set my coffee cup down slowly and said, "Hey, I've been thinking about us lately." That got her attention. She looked up, half curious, half defensive. "Oh, what about? I feel like we've been off, out of sync." She smiled, that rehearsed, distant smile. "We've both been busy, that's all." "No, it's more than that," I said, calm as ever. "I think we need to talk about honesty." She blinked, her smile faltering just a hair. "Okay, what do you mean?" I reached under the table and pulled out a manila folder. Plain. Unlabeled. The kind of thing that makes you sweat before you even open it. I slid it across the table to her, and her hand hovered over it like it was radioactive. "What is this?" "Open it." She did. Slowly. Inside, the printout from the bike tour reservation, the itinerary from the shared Google Doc, and the cherry on top, a screenshot of the calendar invite from CJ with the title Weekend Escape. She stared at it, blinked, then looked at me like she was trying to decide which lie to lead with. "What is this, Michael? You know what it is." Her mouth opened, then closed. That's when I saw it, the first real crack. The moment her expression shifted from denial to the realization that the jig was up. "You went through my stuff?" "No," I said. "I didn't have to. You left the truth lying around like a trail of breadcrumbs. You just thought I'd never look." She sat back in her chair, eyes narrowing. "I can't believe you'd go behind my back like that." I laughed. Laughed so hard I had to wipe my eyes. "That's rich. You're mad that I found out?" "That's the angle we're going with." She folded her arms, the defensive wall snapping into place. "It's complicated, Michael. You don't understand it." "I understand plenty," I cut in. "I understand that while I was here, paying the bills, fixing the damn garbage disposal, and trying to make our boring little life work, you were out building some Instagram-worthy fantasy weekend with a guy you used to flirt with at corporate lunches. Curtis's. Spare me. I know who he is. I saw him." That landed hard. Her face dropped like a stone in a pond. "You followed me?" "No. I just happened to be nearby." "Wild coincidence, huh?" She went quiet. That's when I knew she had no backup plan. No rehearsed speech for this version of events. She was banking on me never noticing. "So what now?" she asked, her voice lower. "You want to yell? Throw me out?" "Nope," I said. "I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to throw your clothes on the lawn. That would make this whole thing louder than it needs to be." "Then what?" "I want you to pack a bag. One bag. Today. And go stay somewhere else for a while." She stared at me, stunned. "You're kicking me out?" "I'm asking you to give me space." "You want to play house with Curtis? Great. Go rent a place and live that life for real. But not under my roof." "You're being ridiculous." "No. I'm being calm. Which is more than I can say for you, considering the chaos you've invited into our marriage like it was a dinner guest." She stood slowly. "Michael, don't do this. We can talk this through." We're already talking, I said. And you're still lying. Her mouth opened again, but nothing came out. Finally, she turned and walked to the bedroom without another word. 20 minutes later, she was gone. I sat at the kitchen table long after the sound of her car faded down the street, staring at the empty coffee cup, at the silence. And you know what? It felt good. Because I didn't lose my mind. I didn't break anything. I broke her illusion. And for once, I was the one in control of the story. But don't get too comfortable. You ever watch someone walk into a trap so well-designed it looks like free will? That's what I set up for Patricia. Not to hurt her. I wasn't interested in playing dirty. But I wanted her to feel what I'd been feeling for months, the confusion, the second-guessing, the constant rewiring of reality until nothing feels solid. I wanted her to sit with it, live in it, lose her footing the same way she pulled the rug from under me. And I wanted to do it smart. I didn't torch the house, I didn't post a Facebook manifesto, and I sure as hell didn't beg her to come back. What I did was quietly, precisely, systematically pull the pins from every part of her comfortable little scaffolding. By the time she realized she was falling, it would be too late to grab onto anything. It started with our joint finances. I had full control of our accounts, not because Patricia wasn't capable, but because she preferred to focus on her work. I handled the bills, the mortgage, the insurance, even the rewards points on our credit cards. I've been doing it for a decade, so she never asked questions. She just swiped, and I kept things balanced. That week she left, I opened a new checking account in my name only and redirected every bit of our auto-deposited income there. I changed the passwords to our utility accounts, canceled her card on our joint Amex, and scheduled a meeting with our CPA to separate our tax profiles pre-divorce. I didn't file anything, not yet, but I let the paperwork sit on the table in plain view for when she came back to talk. Next came the house. Legally, we co-owned it. But the land? That was mine. We bought the property using inheritance money from my grandfather, and my name was the only one on the deed to the lot. She never noticed the technical distinction, probably thought the bank paperwork made us equal owners. It didn't. I went down to the zoning office and applied for some routine upgrades, a patio extension, fence modifications, a few minor things that signaled intent to change. Nothing major. Just enough to trigger the clause in our HOA agreement that required all property modifications to be approved by cohabitants, which she wasn't anymore. Then I let our mutual friends know, subtly, that we were taking time apart, and I'd appreciate discretion. The key word being mutual, because as it turns out, half of our friends weren't exactly thrilled about Patricia disappearing with a guy she used to flirt with at work functions. You don't live in a town like ours for 10 years and not have roots. She underestimated that. She thought she could vanish and come back whenever she pleased, pick up her social life like a tote bag at the gym. Nope. She texted me 4 days later. Short. Polite. Hey, would you be open to meeting for lunch this week to talk? I waited 3 hours, then replied, sure. Wednesday noon. That Italian place you like. She said yes. Probably thought it meant I was thawing. Now, here's where the real work began. I called her company's office manager the next morning. Hey, I said, this is Michael Rutherford, Patricia's husband. I need to double-check our insurance info. She said something about a recent change to the plan. The woman hesitated, then said, oh, you'll want to check the HR portal. She was removed from your plan last week. Didn't she mention it? She hadn't. But now I knew she was preemptively cutting ties. Maybe planning to take Curtis's coverage. Maybe assuming she could switch plans without consequence. Either way, she didn't expect me to know. Perfect. So I scheduled a dental cleaning, the kind of appointment she usually sets for both of us, and sent her the confirmation email by accident. The kind of thing that looks like a routine slip but really says, I know you're off the plan, and now you know I know. Lunch on Wednesday rolled around. I arrived early, got the good booth, ordered sparkling water and a flatbread, knowing full well she'd ask for just a bite, and end up eating half. When she walked in, she looked off. Hair pulled back too tight. Minimal makeup, which was rare for her. A little too casual, like she wanted to project calm but overshot and landed on indifferent. She sat down across from me with a tight smile. Hey. Silence for a second. She adjusted her napkin like it owed her an apology. Thanks for meeting, she said. I nodded. Of course. I've been thinking a lot. About everything. About us. That right? I sipped my water. She glanced around, lowered her voice. Look. I know what I did was wrong. I'm not going to stand here and pretend otherwise. Okay. I don't know what I was doing. I think I was trying to feel something. Anything. I felt like we were stuck, like we were just going through motions. Curtis was a distraction. It doesn't mean I don't care about you. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so her. The kind of logic that tried to wrap betrayal in tissue paper and hand it to you like a peace offering. I get it, I said, flat. You were bored. He made you feel young. Exciting. Whatever the excuse, I've heard the script before. But let me ask you something, Patty. She flinched slightly at Patty. I hadn't called her that since before Asheville. Were you planning on telling me? Ever? She looked down. I don't know. I kept waiting for the right time. There isn't one. More silence. Then she said the line that made this entire operation worth it. I've been staying with Curtis, but it's complicated. I don't think it's what I thought it would be. There it was. The pivot. The start of the walk back. She wasn't sorry about cheating. She was sorry it wasn't working out. I see, I said. So now you want to, what? Try again. She nodded. If you'd be open to it. I leaned forward, rested my forearms on the table. Here's the thing, Patricia. While you were off rediscovering yourself and Curtis's overpriced sheets, I was over here making adult decisions. Financial decisions. Legal decisions. Structural decisions. She froze. I met with a lawyer. He thinks I have a strong case for sole claim to the house based on property law. I also found out that Curtis's little boutique firm has 2 pending lawsuits. Breach of contract stuff. Might be why things are complicated over there. Her face blanched. Oh, and I took your name off the utilities. So if you go back to the house, lights won't work. Same with the credit cards. Hope you enjoy learning how to budget. She blinked, mouth opening and closing. But the best part? I said, smiling now. You remember the HOA newsletter you always ignored? Turns out they're starting an initiative spotlighting couples in the community next month. Guess who's not going to be featured? Her voice cracked. You're humiliating me. No, I said. You did that all on your own. I'm just organizing the pieces. She stood up then, tears forming, but not falling. She wanted to say something, probably a mix of fury and regret. Instead, she just turned and walked out, her boots clicking against the tile like punctuation marks. I sat back, sipped my water, and finished the flatbread. She didn't get a bite. Curtis was already out of the picture 2 weeks later. Word got around that he was leaving town for a fresh start. Translation: couldn't handle the fallout. Patricia tried to come back again, softer this time. Emails. Handwritten note in the mailbox. But the thing about revenge? It's not about destroying someone. It's about making sure they never forget how they destroyed you and had to watch as you got up, dusted off, and walked away stronger. And I wasn't done walking yet. There's a specific kind of silence that comes after a war. Not peace. Not relief. Just stillness. The dust settles, the noise fades, and you're left staring at what's left. That's what life felt like a month after Patricia walked out of that restaurant. No more performances. No more whispered lies over morning coffee. Just me, the house, and an echo I hadn't really heard in years. You'd think I'd feel victorious. Vindicated, at least. I didn't. Not in the way I expected. The revenge had been clean, calculated, and undeniably effective. She didn't come back to the house. Curtis disappeared from the picture entirely. I even got a polite email from Patricia's sister saying she was sorry things turned out this way, followed by a suspiciously specific, I never liked that guy anyway. But all that felt like an aftershock. The real quake hadn't hit me until I saw her name pop up on my phone again, this time as a voicemail. She didn't even text. Just went straight to the emotional Hail Mary. Hey, it's me. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I was hoping we could talk. In person. No games. Just talk. She didn't say sorry. Didn't beg. Just asked to meet. I deleted the voicemail. And then, 20 minutes later, dug it out of the trash folder and listened again. Not because I was soft, but because something in her voice sounded different. Less scripted. Less polished. That alone piqued my curiosity. So I agreed. One last talk. Neutral ground. Saturday. The park down by Riverside where we used to walk in the early years, back when walks were still about connection and not closing your exercise rings. She was already sitting on a bench when I arrived, a little hunched, like she'd shrunk in the last few weeks. No makeup. No performative outfit. Just jeans, sneakers, and that old IU hoodie she never wore around Curtis. She stood when she saw me, then stopped herself halfway, unsure if we were doing hugs or nods. We settled on a nod. Thanks for coming, she said. I sat. kept a few inches between us. Didn't say anything. She took a breath. I'm not going to waste your time. I messed up. Yeah, I said. I don't have excuses. I had reasons, but they don't matter anymore. The truth is, I got selfish. I started thinking about what I wanted, what I felt like I missed out on, and I acted on it without thinking about what I had. And you had. She paused. A good man. A stable home. Safety. That word, safety, landed weird. Like she was describing a retirement fund. That's how you saw me? I asked. A safety net? No. I mean, she caught herself. Yes. Maybe. Not just that. But it was part of it. I thought love was supposed to be exciting all the time, and when it wasn't, I thought something was wrong. And your solution was Curtis. Her face crumpled. That was a mistake. You think? She looked down, picked at her sleeve. I thought he was a fresh start. Someone who saw me differently. He made me feel noticed. You were noticed, I said flatly. You were just too busy craving applause to care. She didn't argue. I read your note, I said. The one you left in the mailbox. The one with all the vague, I miss us lines in the coffee-stained corner. I meant it. No. You missed the version of us where I didn't know. Where I didn't have boundaries. That version's gone. I know, she whispered. There was a long pause. Just the sound of wind cutting through bare trees and a kid laughing somewhere across the field. I've been in therapy, she said suddenly. Just started. I needed to figure out why I did what I did. Why I blew everything up. And she looked at me. Honest for once. I think I hated myself more than I ever hated our marriage. And I projected that onto you. Well, that's convenient, I said, with more sarcasm than I intended. Explains everything, doesn't it? She didn't react. Just nodded slowly. I didn't call you here to win you back, she said. I know that's off the table. I didn't respond. I just wanted to tell you in person that I'm sorry. Not for the consequences. For the choice. I hurt someone who never deserved it. And I know I can't fix that. Still, I stayed quiet. I didn't know how broken I was until I saw you walk away without flinching. That scared me more than anything. I looked out across the field. Watched a couple walking their dog, young, maybe mid-30s. They were laughing, bumping shoulders like they were still learning each other's rhythm. I remembered what that felt like. With Patricia. A long time ago. I didn't flinch, I said, because I already died once. Quietly. The day I realized you weren't on my side anymore. Everything after that? Just clean up. She wiped a tear that had been creeping down her cheek. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just didn't want to disappear without facing what I did. You didn't disappear, I said. You unraveled. Big difference. She gave a sad smile. Do you hate me? No, I said. I don't hate you. Her eyes lit up for a second. That hopeful flicker. That's when I dropped the real answer. I just don't care about you the way I used to. And that might be worse. She froze. Let that sink in. I watched her absorb the truth, not the betrayal this time, but the finality. The death of affection. She couldn't fix that. No apology, no gesture, no nostalgic memory was going to breathe that version of me back to life. We sat in silence for a while after that, just letting the air do the talking. Eventually she stood. Take care of yourself, Michael. You too. And then she walked away. No dramatic music. No tearful hug. Just steps on gravel fading into distance. I stayed on that bench another 10 minutes, letting the wind roll through my jacket. The park around me moved on joggers, kids, life, like none of it had ever happened. That was the last time we spoke in person. The last time she got to explain herself, hoping it would land differently than her decisions had. And the last time I'd ever see the woman I used to love as anything more than a memory with a sharp edge. It's strange how the end of something can feel more like a beginning. Not a cinematic one. No fireworks or inspirational speeches. No montage of me finding a new girlfriend, running a marathon, or starting a podcast. Just quiet. Stillness. The kind you earn, not stumble into. It's the sound of your own thoughts finally having room to stretch out after years of living under someone else's voice. 3 months had passed since that final conversation with Patricia at the park. The house looked different now, and not just because I replaced the living room rug she insisted was artisanal, but actually felt like it was woven from hay and disappointment. No, it was the space. The air. It was cleaner. Calmer. The rooms felt honest again. You know what I realized? The worst part of the betrayal wasn't the cheating itself. It was how easily she lied while sharing a bed with me every night. That quiet comfort we used to have, the casual intimacy of brushing shoulders in the kitchen or knowing how the other person liked their toast, It didn't vanish. It mutated. Became a mask. I wasn't living with a wife. I was living with a fiction that had been workshopped behind my back. And once you see the fiction for what it is, you can't go back. My lawyer and I filed the divorce papers a week after that conversation. Patricia didn't fight it. In fact, her response came back signed and initialed like she was approving a FedEx delivery. We had no kids, no real joint assets anymore since I'd pulled the financial rug out from under her the moment she stepped out of the marriage. The house, thanks to my foresight and a brilliant zoning attorney, was awarded to me outright. Her lawyer barely put up a fight. She took the SUV and a few boxes of clothes, left behind a shelf of unread novels, a half-broken French press, and one of those decorative signs that says, "Live, laugh, love." I dropped it off at Goodwill the next morning. Let someone else live that lie. For the first few weeks, people kept asking the same thing. "How are you doing?" And I'd smile and say, better than expected. Which was true, but incomplete. See, when you go through something like this, there's a grieving period no one warns you about. Not for the person, they're gone, and good riddance, but for the version of yourself that let it happen. The man who rationalized the distance, who noticed the signs and still gave her the benefit of the doubt, who worked overtime fixing every little thing around the house, thinking it counted for something. I buried that guy, not with bitterness, but with clarity. And in his place, I started building someone new, someone sharper, someone less willing to let red flags slide because he didn't want to seem paranoid. I didn't date right away. Still haven't. Not because I'm afraid, but because I'm not interested in picking someone to distract me from myself. That's what Patricia did. That's what Curtis was, a distraction wrapped in cologne and buzzwords. I didn't want a rebound. I wanted reality. And that takes time. So instead, I focused on reclaiming the parts of life I'd put on hold. I rejoined my bowling league. Yeah, it's corny, but those guys never asked questions. Just handed me a beer and told me to stop throwing gutter balls. I refinished the deck out back. Something Patricia always called a waste of money, but now serves as the perfect spot for Saturday morning coffee. Black. No sugar. No commentary. I even started playing guitar again, something I hadn't done in years. The case had been collecting dust in the garage, tucked behind Christmas decorations and old luggage we never used. Funny how the things you used to love can hide in plain sight until the noise dies down. My evenings are quiet now. Sometimes a little too quiet. But it's honest. That's a word I keep coming back to. Not happy. Not thrilling. Just honest. There's comfort in that. In knowing that everything around you is real. The silence, the furniture, the routines. No scripts. No second life humming just out of sight. Patricia called once after the divorce was finalized. Left a voicemail. Said she hoped I was okay, and that maybe someday we could be friends. I didn't return the call. Because here's the thing about friendship, it's built on trust. And once that's gone, everything else is just polite noise. I ran into her once, by accident. Grocery store. She was 2 aisles over, standing in front of a display of organic granola like it held the answers to life. I could have ducked out. I could have taken the long way around the frozen foods and avoided the moment altogether. But I didn't. I walked past her. Slow. Deliberate. She saw me. We locked eyes. She gave me a small nod. The kind that says, "I remember." I nodded back, but kept walking. Didn't stop. Didn't smile. Because we both knew that nothing said in that moment could change anything. Later that night, I sat on the back deck with a glass of bourbon, listening to the cicadas hum and thinking about what it meant to be alone. Not lonely. Just alone. There's a difference. Loneliness is when you reach out and no one's there. Being alone? That's when you realize you don't need to reach out. I've learned to enjoy my own company. Learned that peace isn't always exciting, but it's reliable. Learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing not to carry someone else's failure like it's your burden. I forgave Patricia. Quietly. In pieces. Not for her sake, she'll have to make peace with herself. But for mine. Because carrying anger is like paying rent in someone else's head, and I've already invested enough in that property. Life moves on. The grass grows back. The sun comes through the blinds whether you're ready or not. And me? I'm finally ready. Ready for what? I don't know. But I'm not afraid of it anymore. Subscribe to the channel